And you think about, why are they doing it? Well, they're doing it because they have no choice. They have to be able to survive, and this is a source of revenue for the country or the government or invested interests. So these things happen, but it's short-term thinking, right? And we see that across so many different supply chains and sectors and governments. So people think to themselves, well, you know, they don't imagine this lasting on 18 months, right? Or maybe they don't have the historical context of other zoonotic diseases that have happened. But we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
We're 6 minutes away. I'm going to grab a glass of water before we get
I see that we have something with them.
Yeah.
¿Puedes cerrarlo? ¿Quieres cerrarlo de Facebook? We're getting them. Yeah.
Come on. One day one, the other day the other. Let's.
Yeah, well, this is not about someone who's directly Facebook.
Now it's Facebook.
You're gonna have to try
Now we'll see.
during the conference.
Who were they? What do you do?
Well, they was a group of people. Kyle was the main person that we were with there, and Alina, and they both work for a climate organization in Bucharest.
Okay.
And I was there in Bucharest in Romania for, goodness, maybe 14 or 15 days, working on some different projects on behalf of my organization. But it was cool. I really liked it. And, you know, of course, want to continue to explore all those countries in the area, yours included.
Yeah, me too, actually. And we had the plans for April. Hotels booked, planes arranged, everything, and ta-da.
Yeah, that's a bummer. It's the norm now, unfortunately.
True. Like 50 minutes ago, I finished my telco with Estonian Startup Leaders Club, where basically all the CEOs of bigger tech companies gather every month to share the latest updates and news. And first time in history, first time in 20 years, they are laying off engineers. Never happened. Never happened.
It's horrible.
Yep.
That's horrible. Yeah, I mean, what a disruptor, right? I was looking over a contract the other day, and there's an act of God clause in there where it lists pandemics as one of the things that could happen. And I had to reference with my lawyer and then also the landlord where we rent our office that we want to enact the act of God clause for our organization. So it's pretty serious out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have 2 minutes more.
Cool.
Anyone else in the call that can take advantage, asking something from Clayton quickly before we start, or just say, write to those comments here from where are you? Are you in Mexico? Are you in US? Are you in Estonia, as we just heard? Where are you from?
Well, I'm in Florida. Orlando, Florida. It's more than just Disney.
Yeah, you can actually see as well when people are, if you open up the chat window, so when people are writing, then you can answer if it goes with what you're talking exactly at that moment. If not, then the questions we will do it later in the end. So let me try the last time to go live also with Facebook. But let's see. No, sorry, something went wrong. We're working on getting it fixed as soon as possible. Okay, well, then we need to share the video afterwards.
I was looking at our e-com store and I see the estate plan, married couple, adult children only. Is that the one that you're saying?
I'm not sure where this came from yet. Okay, it's 11 a.m. As we are in Mexico, that what happened with your picture now? I see you double. For some reason, I see your picture and I see your video. Why? Clayton, why do I see? Everybody else see this picture in front of his face?
I have no idea.
Okay, now it disappeared. Good.
Okay, cool. It was a lag.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm pretty sure that as we are in Mexico, people are never most of the time on time, so we will be experiencing people dialing in later in the stage. But let me first of all say thank you to everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for this commitment to really add value and add your experience to the group and try to find out where the points that we as a community can help, and you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a non-profit leader, whatever you do needs help. So don't be afraid asking for help. Please write us down here in the chat where you have questions, where you need help, how can we contact you, and how others can contact you as well. So Stuart is going to share one document. If you want to be involved, then leave your contacts. And also we invite you to just created in Facebook with the same name, How to Dominate the Decades Under Current Circumstances, private group. So there we can actually create the work group for those talks. So whatever we decide here or get ideas, then this how we can actually take it to the fields and really work on it, have a plan and how to execute the plan, no? So welcome, Clayton. Clayton is the Executive Director of United Nations Accredited NGO Ideas for Us. He's from West Orange County, Florida. And what is this Orlando Greenworks? That caught my eye. The other ones I sort of knew what they were, but I was reading your resume and that was something that caught my eye. What is this doing?
Sure. So, goodness, back in 2007, the Mayor Dyer, our mayor here in Orlando, launched a program called Greenworks. And the idea of it was looking at transportation, livability, sustainability, the energy mix of the city, and making it more sustainable. And that initiative is led by the sustainability department of the city now. And as the program updated itself, there were about 25 or so advisors in the city that were chosen to be on the panel to bring in nonprofit voices, the voices of businesses in the community, leading companies that were there to communicate their recommendations and sustainability. And I was fortunate enough to be there as the executive director of Ideas for Us, but also as a sustainability professional. I'm a biologist, but I always say that, you know, I'm a biologist because I'm a naturalist, If you're a naturalist in the 21st century, you have to care about conservation. So I've always been very active in action and in advocacy and environmental education. So I have a lot of experience doing work around the world as a biologist that I can bring to the table, and now I guess as a global nonprofit organizer, which is definitely something that we're going to be leaning on in this whole mess of coronavirus. I think there's going to be an unprecedented need for nonprofits now and on the other side of this.
So how has the COVID-19 virus really impacted you and what you do and everything that you are involved in?
Well, in a tremendous way. And let me say the number one most important thing to think of as an organization or as part of a civic society group is to not transmit the disease. So everything that we decided to do was full stop immediately, because we're scientists after all. We're also sane. So the most important thing is to stop the transmission, and especially to our people. So this is very tough because April is Earth Month, right? Our annual fundraiser was April. We were planning the first ever Southern Climate Week occurring. Normally the United Nations General Assembly holds their Climate Week during the General Assembly in September. We've participated in that for the last 6 years now. And we felt that there needed to be a Southern version of it, so we were planning launching that around Earth Day even, and bringing people from across the state together for a massive 1 week long conference and action symposium. All of that had to be canceled because that should be the number one concern of all leaders. So that was where we started. Second thing that we focused on was, how do we care for our staff? What is the most equitable way that we can take care of our employees during this time? So we said, okay, let's close up March 13th, which happened to be Friday the 13th, of course, right? And so we closed Friday the 13th and said, full stop, no more in-person things that we do, because we're a very social, active organization in the community. And we gave everyone from that time until today, March 31st, full pay, asking them to do absolutely nothing but prepare themselves and their families for the disease and for the virus and the food shortage and all of these things like that. They were very, very minimal, except for maybe in our C staff and preparing things for a board meeting that were excluded from that. But we went full stop in the organization and paid our people to protect themselves. So that's really important, I think, and definitely a way that it's affected us. What's also affecting us is we're taking this time to look at our mission, who we are, and really dissect some of the pieces under the hood. We're a very active organization in the things that we do. We don't have as much time, I think, for our level of professionalism and excellence to revisit in everything that we'd like to. So now it's kind of forced upon us. I can literally help organize the Google Drive, right, all day long, right? And this becomes kind of the diamond in the dust, right, of what's going on right now. So big effects to operations. You know, my advice to any organizations that are on this call that are going through these things, I know that you know, your circle is a lot of leaders and people who are trying to make as much impact in the community as possible. But number one, you have to know your financial situation. Please don't just let yourself die from negligence. That's about the worst thing you could do for your donors, everybody, your volunteers. I mean, it's just truly death by neglect. Look at your bank account, do the math, pull out a calculator. How long do I have to live? And if it's 4 days, then so be it. But you have to know, right? You have to know what you're facing. And that means meeting legal requirements of being an organization. And what are the kinds of things that you have to do to maintain your 501c3 status? How do you legally protect yourself as the organization, right? Because you're leading on behalf of something. If you're part of a team, look at how do you make sure that everyone that the team has been working with is communicated with, and take those kinds of things into consideration and take them seriously. There's a great quote by gentleman named Mark Cuban, who's kind of a business celebrity and sports team owner. He's a billionaire, and there's a meme now with him and everything, which is how we all communicate now anyway, is memes. But he basically says something like, the way that companies treat their people will define them for the next decade, right? How are you treating your employees right now in this mess? It will truly define you and your organization for 10 years or more. Organizations will be burnt to the ground, and rightfully so, if they mistreat their employees during a time like this. So it's important to think about.
The other day we were discussing that you gave me a brilliant idea, and you said that that amongst the nonprofits that are operating in your county, they do the collaboration. What type? Can you talk about little like what do you do? Like you were mentioning those who have money might have not the manpower, and etc. etc. We talked about that dynamics, and I really liked it. So if you can give us a little examples from there.
Oh, of how organizations could maybe come together. Yeah, so this is an interesting thing to think about, right? Again, maybe sometimes there's a lot of analogies in biology, right? Animals do something called commensalism, right? Where they kind of live together and both of them benefit from it. Sometimes it goes as far as symbiosis, right? So you have to think about, what does my organization maybe have? Tons of volunteers that were mobilized for an event in April or May, right? And is there a friend organization that I can look to or partner with that is maybe has cash from a grant and is looking for a way to fulfill that? I mean, that's kind of the dream scenario. But there's a lot of other things that can happen as well that are beneficial. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in person, right? There's a way to fulfill educational requirements or things like that, hold online summits, right? And I invite you to do your research, right? It's kind of this amazing arms race right now of who's going to make good media, right? In the creative sector. The playing field's pretty even among NGOs because of the ubiquitousness of software like this, right? Before, a multi-million-dollar organization would be able to afford a video conference line of something like this. Now it's free, you know? So you just have to have a computer or a phone, right? So you're seeing this incredible equalization. And so there's a lot of things you can do to innovate online, and organizations and groups, companies, businesses, they all need to think about that. Can we consolidate and take some of the liability or the rent payments or the whatnot off of themselves, right? And how can they move forward in a powerful way around their missions?
And what do you think in the long term, like the positive and the negative impacts will be, and what do you think, what type of nonprofits will survive that?
I mean, the negatives are many. I'll start there so we can end on kind of a happy note. The negatives are a complete economic collapse. Philanthropy becomes extinct, right? That's a scary thing. Or extinct for a number of years, right? The current notion of philanthropy didn't exist pre-1917. And 1917, 1918 is when we faced the last epidemic, which I'll talk about. I'd love to speak a little bit about just some biological details about that, just so everyone understands the big picture here. But you know, I think that one of the negatives we're feeling right now in the United States is that the EPA, our Environmental Protection Agency, part of our government, right, has suspended all pollution laws, all environmental protection laws indefinitely. They've just said, well, you just don't have to do them now. So this is a complete free-for-all that no one is looking at right now, and is happening behind the scenes. It's
is it
really
just with the emissions, or is it with all
it's
the natural
overarching. You can dump in water, you can not filter your sewage, you can do whatever you want. It's pretty nuts. I think it borders on crimes against humanity, actually, and these people should be tried, right, for these kinds of things. It's seriously fucked up, to lack of a better term.
And yet it's the best time for them to do so, because everybody is so focused on the virus and nobody really actually notices.
So these are huge issues, right? Because of course, when do they allow when do they allow those laws to go back into play, right? So who knows? Who knows what will happen? It could be extended a very long time based on not thinking of the environment first, and it could be laid again and again for years, right? So again, this is that short-term thinking, right? How can we get these resources now, live off of them now, and leave the problems to the people who come after us, right? Which is very much so a way of thinking in the world right now. So there's a lot of negatives out there. You know, there's the negatives of the fact that in the United States, at least, people are saying that this is the worst mental and emotional health crisis since 9/11, and that it may affect us even worse. And people were very aggressive and depressed post 9/11. It was very bizarre. They're likening it to if your town has a shooting in it. And here in Orlando, we unfortunately had one of the worst acts of violence committed in mass shootings right here in Orlando in 2016 with the Pulse nightclub tragedy. And I remember just the feeling in the air after that. It was very bizarre. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. So, you know, I think that these are true negatives. The positives, right, are that, well, I mean, they're what we make of this, right? But we have to talk about it. This is very important. Please, all of you organizations listening, do this. You have to talk about the positives that can come of this, otherwise no one will imagine them. I know that it seems strange that people might not think that this is a chance for us to become reconnected as a species and as people, that this is an opportunity to have more businesses and better tax breaks for people working from home, to cut down on traffic and to ease congestion, or to not fly or be so carbon intensive, and to use this kind of technology, right? But no one will think that or imagine it unless you talk about it and you engage and integrate that into your mission. For us, it's easy because we're a sustainability organization. But say you're working with, you know, maybe women who are elders and are alienated in their communities and they're lonely, right? Look at what you can do with this kind of technology and helping people not feel lonely. Plus, there's this great empathy for this kind of thing. Ideas for Us does a lot of work in different countries around the world. We're an environmental solutions incubator, and we've done work in many places in sub-Saharan Africa, for instance. And there, many of my friends suffer from malaria, right? My wonderful friend Masareka is often sick with it, and he's a frontline doctor in a rural hospital. And people don't understand what it's like to have a society where people just get sick, sometimes for weeks or months at a time, and the doctor's just not there today. Sorry, he's got malaria again. And your whole community comes to a screeching halt. I think that until he either gets better or dies and is replaced, which could be years or just never. And people in the United States and in a lot of more developed countries around the world that aren't still emerging, people can't wrap their heads around this. And I think now there's a greater chance to tell those stories and to make that kind of connection than ever before, because you wouldn't normally think about it or be able to imagine what the hell that's even like, right? But think of what it would do for your own career if you were just isolated for 60 to 90 days randomly throughout your life, right? Over a 5-year span. Really screw things up, especially if you're a leader and trying to solve complex problems in your community where there's plenty of malaria. So tough stuff, but we've got to tell those positive stories, and it's the organizations that do that that are going to get through this.
Actually, what concerns me the most with all that situation and being at home, and just the other day, I don't know if our friends from Nigeria are in or not, because some of them do not have name. If the State of Africa representative is here, can you put your microphone on? If not, just like people really do not understand why they need to stay home, and it has been really the hardest point for example for them. And obviously they are not even close to the peak yet, so not to mention that they don't have any of the supplies, etc. But what caught my eye is also with different the approach that people have. And you just said it brilliantly, in a sense that like our attention span is so short that even being at home, and we know that it's like life or death, we can't handle it. Like there's suicides, there's human rights, which all the violence, what is going on, the rate has gone out of the roof. It's like, it's incredible.
Yes, and you know, it goes to show something very interesting, especially as leaders of organizations, we need to take this into consideration. It shows that people will go to any lengths to get human connection, and that this is what drives people to be addicts and to stay trapped in addiction. This is what drives people to be in gangs and criminal organizations around the world. People are desperate for some kind of human connection, positive or not, and they're willing to risk their lives against a virus and infect their families and kill them in order to do it. And it's really fascinating. We have a big problem with this in Florida, and weirdly enough, from the population that would be most affected by it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of elders in our community, right, that are out and doing things and having lunch and playing golf and behaving totally normally. And, you know, and a lot of the discussions that I've been seeing on social media about this kind of thing is around the fact that, well, it's a free country, and that, you know, if they want to risk their lives, they should be allowed to do so.
But the only problem is that it's not only their lives, like they don't
Correct.
understand that the people that need to attend them at the hospital, that's the problem.
Correct.
Like, okay, go and die yourself then.
Right.
Die
And
yourself.
precisely. And we had an issue here in Tampa, Florida, which is on the West Coast, where a pastor of a large congregation for a church, I don't know what particular sect of religion they were, but it was something in Christianity. And they had a large gathering of hundreds of people, like 600 people. And they really pushed for them and called them out to come on a Sunday. And that pastor was arrested recently for breaking that law of public endangerment, which was totally what should have happened. But 600 of those people showed up, right? And, you know, they didn't get arrested, right? It was just him, right, for inciting it. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, and to see also different countries which measures are taken. Like in Russia, you will get arrested and you will be put to jail if you ignore the rules. In Estonia, I know that those which have now been diagnosed and they are positive, and if they violate that, they also will get a fine. So there's different things which are going on. But can you imagine, like, why we don't understand how important it is? Not like just,
well, it's a lack of science, you know, that's definitely part of it, right? It's a lack of understanding what the hell a virus even is. You know, I've even, to some of my very educated business successful friends, you know, like, hey guys, it's not alive, right? It's a strand of RNA inside of a protein sheath that has a way of injecting that into cells, right? And then reproducing itself, and you have an immune reaction to it and run a fever. And the complications of that is what kills you, right? And that it can form a spore, and it can last on a material, a doorknob or a glass, for days, right? 4 days, I think, on glass. And you know, it's very dangerous, right? So there's those kinds of things. There's also the fact that this is the third kinds of SARS that we've seen: severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, and the first one came out of China, I think, in 2003 or 2005. I was in high school at that time and remember seeing and learning about it. Second one was MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, which was transmitted from camels to people. Most influenzas come from animals. The truly terrifying influenza of 1917, 1918 killed 100 million people globally, which at that time was a huge part of the global population, and truly across the world, because it was spread through activities around World War I. But that came from pigs. It was a type of terrible swine flu. But the way that it affected someone was much more severe in the speed in which it killed. there were reports of people that they would become ill at 4 p.m. and by 10 a.m. the next morning be dead from just starting to not feel well to death. We're very fortunate that we're not in that kind of situation here. And this seems to be a viral disease called a Zoa Notic Disease. And what that means is it's transmitted from animals. And in this case, it has a lot of genetic similarities with a virus that has both pangolin and bat origins to it. And that this is very interesting. It's not uncommon to have a few different animals act as vectors. A bat eating a banana above, in a roost above a farm that has pigs in it, and a piece of the banana drops, and the pig eats the banana, and then a person eats the pig, and now this has jumped through people. And then once it's in a human being, it can mutate, and then mutate as it goes between people, and continue to affect them. Problem is with this, and I think the original SARS came from a palm civet, which is like a small mammal that lives up in the trees. It's an arboreal mammal. And this palm civet was killed as part of the bushmeat trade. And the bushmeat trade, of course, also affects bats and pangolins as both Chinese medicinal medicine and as food sources. So there's an element of abuse of nature to why this is happening directly. And the bushmeat trade, which has been called out for years by conservationists as being extraordinarily destructive. Problem is that there's not a lot of other alternatives for people in certain situations, but not all. There's a perpetuation of it culturally as well, where there's plenty of other food source options like pigs and chickens that we have a little bit more of a immunity to. But sometimes those terrible diseases do transform, like back in 1917.
Before we open up the microphones for, and especially when Dr. Caroline is here from UK, I would love her to put her microphone on as well in a second. But what would be the 3 takeaways that you would like to recommend for the heads of the non-profits that are on the call?
Yeah.
Like Audelia, like Caroline, I think Ada is here. So what would be the 3 takeaways?
Yes, I'll give you the 3 takeaways, and then I just need to grab my computer charger so this doesn't die. So that's a good question.
Good.
But first point is take this time to take care of your organization and take care of your staff. You have to do those things. Make sure everyone is okay, make sure the organization's sustainable, and you have a plan moving forward. Second thing is going to be take this time to really explore who you are as an organization, and can you team up with similar entities in the community as a way of lessening the blow to both of you. I think that's very important. And then certainly the third thing is use this as a time to be productive, right? Use it as a time, but productive in an exploration way. Use it as time to think of your organization and what can we be after this? What will the people I'm trying to help, what will their problems be after this? How can we best address the things that they're going through right now? And what's that going to look like on the other end in this time, 2021, right? And take that time to think about that and talk about it with your team and write about it. And I think that those kinds of things will make the difference. So prepare, communicate, and explore. And on that, I'll grab my computer charger. Give me one moment.
Yeah. Caroline.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you maybe introduce yourself with 2 or 3 sentences so everybody knows who you are?
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. My name is Dr. Caroline, and I'm the founder of Ladies of All Nation International. We support women, and we also support men as well. We also have initiatives that, support women through their struggles and through their success as well. And we also help young people as well. The initiative is called Galaxies of Stars. And we also have a magazine, which is a global magazine as well. But the mission is for us to join forces, helping each other and support each other so that we can all make a change in this world. So I believe that it's not like who you are, it's about what you do as well, because I believe that the decision that you make in life can make or break your dreams. So it's so important to work with people that are on the same journey with you, because you're able to reach the finishing line. So yes, that's me.
It would be interesting to know, like, what's comparing to UK now in your experience and US as Clayton, like what are the main struggles, for example, which you, Caroline, have now seen, like the non-profits, although again UK is a little behind US in the peak of the virus, but what have you seen, and what are your main struggles?
The main struggles is definitely we are not going out. We cannot go out, because obviously most of the things that we do as non-profit organization, we connect, we network, we help each other on a one-to-one basis. So we're not able to do that because we're not allowed. And at the same time, there's so many things that we had in place. So we had events, we already had upcoming events, so we're not able to do that as well. And the anxiety itself and the fear of the unknown, because of what we're seeing online, we don't know what's going to happen. So hence why these initiatives, the programs like this, they are actually opening our eyes and helping us as well, because most of us, we just worried, okay, what's going to happen? And because of what we're seeing on social medias and also, so it's like, it's a worry, but the most important thing is we have to look at the positive. So I think it's really, really important to just come together and just help each other and just say, we'll get through it together. Yeah.
If we go down to the individual levels, like where did you see that? Actually, those calls and those talks are because me and Caroline were talking how we can really impact the people and especially the people that are in trouble and looking for ways to sort of starting just to survive and ending up obviously with anxieties like you just mentioned, etc. So what do you see on top of what we're doing now? How can we help you?
I think what I've learned from this one is we all have different skills and ideas, and some of the things which I've learned from here, because I'm learning as well. So I think most of the important thing that I need is obviously the support, and also the thing, when I say support, it needs like, because obviously I was a bit worried what's going to happen to me as well, because I work with so many people, and most of the majority people are vulnerable people as well. Mm-hmm. So they are also worried, or because of the isolation as well. But I think the most important thing is just to speak to someone. And what I've learned as well is just we need to just check, how is my friend? And then we support each other as well. And we know that we need these platforms because at the same time, we're learning as well. And we're supporting each other as well. And at the same time, some of the things which I'm hearing, I didn't know. So obviously, I'm so grateful as well, and I'm so grateful to you for the connection as well. And it's really, really important that we just keep going. We support each other, and we need each other. We really, really need each other.
Do you have any direct question? Maybe something that Clayton can help you with? If not, obviously, what we want to do is please share your contacts. Whoever wants, it's volunteer. If you don't want, you just want to listen, fine. Those people that join us later, if you have specific questions, if you have needs, if you just want to be, or you want to raise hand, I want to help, please leave your contacts here. And also I have created in Facebook a private group for exactly and the page for this purpose. So it's called like we have the name here, how to dominate the ticket under current circumstances. Find out, and everybody from every single call are going to be there. What that helps us to do is make specific work groups and work with specific areas, specific problems, and specific solutions for those problems. And don't forget global. Every single person who is here is from somewhere, like again, Estonia, UK, US, Mexico. Yesterday we had from Australia, like with everybody with like, use it, please use it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ecuador. So you see, like, please take it seriously. Please see a possibility to raise your hand or ask for help. Don't be alone in those. Like, if you need help, please ask for it. Also, do you have any questions to Clayton? And I would like Audelia to also talk about her foundation.
I will ask later on because I have, a few questions, but I will just ask a bit later if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
Of course, and I put my email in the chat as well as a link to my website, ideasforus.org. I'm the executive director of Ideas for Us. I also put a PDF of just a lot of information about the virus, ways to protect yourself, comparing it to other viruses in history. It's a really good document, and it's all scientifically sound information. So feel free to check that out and to share it with anyone that you like. And it's an honor to be here, and just thank you so much for inviting me to come on and talk. I'll continue to stay on the call and happy to entertain any questions by email or right now.
Audelia, she's working with a lot of nonprofits here in Los Cabos, and she's obviously today at 1 o'clock she's going to present in Spanish. But Audelia, do you have any questions to Clayton, or maybe you want to share what you're doing here in Los Cabos? And obviously you need to put your microphone on.
Hello to all.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, I was listening. It's very interesting to hear the point of view of someone working in this side of from the organizations in another part of the world. And yes, we are facing a very scary time in the future. But I just want to thank you for making this possible, to bring us this information. Thank you so much for all the information that you are giving us. And yes, I am have been thinking many things about we are going to share later. So thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else on this group from any other nonprofit foundation? Because some of you don't have names, just have iPads, and so I can't really.
It's good branding.
Anyone who wants to share, maybe have experience in having a foundation, having a nonprofit.
Hi, Ragni. This is Corey Riggs. How are you doing?
Hi, Corey.
Just really appreciate this. I enjoyed yesterday and this as well. And just wanted to let you know some of the things we're doing in Los Cabos right now. We've got, as you know, I'm running the El Dorado and Chileno Bay Foundations, and we're working with the International Community Foundation and Los Cabos Children's Foundation to create a big community-wide effort to help get food and to distribution points, as we know a lot of people have lost their jobs in Los Cabos and probably have not had the ability to prepare for an extended lockdown. And so we're a little concerned about that. So one of the things I would say, nonprofits in general, this is a great time to collaborate, and to collaborate with a network of people, because you got to bring the whole community together and work together on on these initiatives. And I believe that we're doing a very, very good job of getting the whole community engaged, including the government sectors, the business sectors, and the foundations to look at getting medical equipment to first responders and to keep Los Cabos functioning. So having protective medical gear for even gas station attendants and people in the stores and stockers and for the grocery stores and those types of things. And then also for the different hospitals here, we're working with a big network of people. So again, my offer is just to say that I think that it's very important in times like this to collaborate and to use multiple resources to bring it together. But anybody that's interested in getting involved in what we're doing, please, you know, I'm going to put my information here. We'd love to have you jump on board as this community effort is really going strong.
Please drop your email down below in the chat and your website as well. That's great. I'd be happy to reach out.
Thank you.
We have one question. Also, Corey, how can we help? It's like, yes, we can help. Is there like very specific ways? You know what? We need volunteers. You know what? We need a contact which can provide something. You know what? We need a contact from the government with the army to take the food to the specific points where the people really are and need the food, because we have seen in other cities that actually the food convoys have been attacked. So there's a lot of things which we need to think how we really organize it that in a best way, and obviously in a way that we are not affected physically anyone. No?
Specifically, Marisa Comella that from Los Cabos Children's Foundation is coordinating all the logistics of this. We are right now doing the fundraising, so we're reaching out to the El Dorado and Chileno Bay communities today. We are working on reaching out to all the very wealthy developments to get money in the door. And there's a couple funds. There's one through El Dorado and Chileno Bay Foundation, and then there's another through Los Cabos Children's Foundation. ICF, International Community Foundation, is also raising money towards that effort. But the hub of the medical equipment and the food will go through Los Cabos Children's Foundation. And we have a team of people. My 3 people that work for me are helping. I've given those resources to Marisa and her team. And there's ICF is also helping by putting their resources towards that. So it specifically for you to get involved, I'm going to put Marisa's email in this as well. Yeah. And I'll put Los Cabos Children's Foundation website. And that's anything that you would like to do. If there's people want to donate food, if people want to donate whatever, we're working with the government right now. We just had a call. The military will help us deliver the food. We're also working on logistics of getting home-to-home delivery of dispensas. And we have food dispensas that we're looking to order. We have a logistics company that's looking at all the things that we need. And so we're right in the middle of that preparedness. We know that Los Cabos is probably about 10 days away from having a lot of cases. And so unfortunately, I was up in La Paz 3 days ago at a meeting, and everyone in La Paz was acting like nothing's happening. I mean, it was, as we saw in Los Cabos, probably about 5 days ago. But now that's changing. So there's going to be a lot of cases in Los Cabos where we know that, and in La Paz. And so I think that creating this one point of contact, which we've been able to do, again, I'll put Marisa's email there. You can contact me. If raising funds is obviously a huge thing, so the more funds we get, the more help we're going to be able to give. And any kind of food donations, those types of things, I'll make sure that you guys have that information.
Yeah, because we have I have seen, like, as I'm connection also with the Asociación Mujeres Empresarias, there's an initiative there. The Coparmex Los Cabos delegation is also doing it. We have our World Women's Foundation member Selene, which is also already having some production companies ready to help with rice, with beans, with all of that. So I think in order to not to really do by ourselves, everybody in our corner, if we are going to orchestrate this well in a community like Los Cabos, I think this is going to be amazing. And again, that's why we are in this call today. And I'm really, really happy because, you know, listening to someone's experience like Clayton, nevertheless, like you're in a different jurisdiction in that sense, but your problems are the same. So it doesn't matter today if you are in US, if you are in Africa, or you are in Estonia, the problems are the same. People need food, people need the support. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. You know, our organizations are resource required, right? And in the nonprofit world or the NGO world, right, your resources are not only money and financial capital, right, but it's also people, right, and your volunteers and your team. And the same can be said for everything in our society. Again, it's part of being human and why people have been defying, right, this kind of lockdown. So, you know, it's going to be a wild ride. I think maybe just the last thing. Oh, I know we had a question in here as well, but you know, one of the things I want to say is that prepare for this not being over anytime soon. I mean, I know for Florida, we're seeing that the curve right now of deaths in the state of Florida will be cresting in May. Right? So if that's happening in May, then at least all of May is going to continue to be quarantined. Then we're going to go into June. There's probably going to need 30 days of no new infections before everything is opened back up. Now you're talking September, October, November, maybe things in time for Christmas. Right? And this is going to be extraordinarily disruptive. So when you're planning for your organizations and what's the best thing to do for you and your people, you may have to lay everyone off and hold whatever money you have in your account so that on the other end of this, you have resources to pick up the pieces and keep going. Now, here in the United States, for people that are facing this legally, you can have former staff at their own free will choose to volunteer on behalf of the organization. It cannot be billable hours where they are paid for it later on. It can't be a requirement of them being rehired. Those things are actually illegal here through labor laws. Of course, not every country even has labor laws, so it really depends. But in even some of the more extreme cases, you can keep the wheels on the bus and keep them turning, but you may have to go entirely to providing information here online for quite the foreseeable future, which again gives organizations a chance to compete and to make really good content, right? So that's an important thing to think about.
Is there any other questions? Yeah, I did see like what was the question? How can we make a global strategy for funding our organizations?
I mean, I would say try to not make it global, right? People are going to be very into their local concerns, right? Countries are going to think about their own country's concerns. Other than very giant entities, right, that are funding multinational related things, they're going to continue doing that. But don't try to make a global funding strategy, make a localized funding strategy. Now, not all countries are philanthropic, not all cultures are philanthropic, so I know that can be very difficult. For many countries, maybe the majority stake of their funding is coming from another country. For that, I say, you know, make sure that you communicate with your donors now. Don't sit there and wait for them to email you and to say, oh, we're not going to be able to give you $3 million again this year. We're so sorry. Write them now. Ask them how they are. Get in front of them through video. Have a face-to-face conversation. Ask them how this is affecting their giving portfolio. We have a foundation that gives to Ideas for Us. They lost $4 million from their foundation, USD, in the first 2 weeks of March because the market was in free fall. $4 million, just poof, it's gone, right? Your average portfolio lost 30 to 50% value for individuals here. So someone could have just had $1 million and now they have 500,000 and it was their life savings, right? And they're not going to be feeling particularly philanthropic unless they have a really good reason to. So you've got to create that reason through stewardship of communicating your mission and what will happen to the people you're trying to help if they do not continue to support, and find the way that that can also help them achieve their goals. This is important aspects of fundraising, right? You have to figure out where's the goal overlap of what I'm trying to do and the goal of the donor, and how do you make sure that those kinds of things can help one another. So maybe your workforce of volunteers in your organization can help them with one of their goals, where they don't have to pay for staff to achieve something, save them that money, and they donate it to you, right? Because you can bring those kinds of things into play. So it's very important. You've got to really focus on that cultivated relationship long-term with the person, or start building one now. There's no better time than reaching out to one of your donors, maybe a business owner, maybe a elected official, maybe someone on your street or in your community who you want to help you. They're looking for a connection now. Talk to them, build your relationship.
Well, I think Jacqueline also asks, how can we send volunteers to the streets to help other people? I don't think that really sending them to the street is a good idea in a quarantine, but
yeah, you've got to think about what that means. So talk to local restaurants, and if they have any bread that they're throwing out, if they have any food that would be spoiled, make a place for, or like becoming spoiled, not actually spoiled, right? Don't poison people, please. But if they're looking for ways to donate these kinds of things, do that. Set up drops where it's put on a table and it's wheeled outside and people can come and freely take from it, right? Something like that if you have to minimize contact while still helping. But please, we have closed we're a global United Nations Accredited NGO with part of ECOSOC. We're an observer organization for UNFCCC, and we've done work in 30 different countries. I helped basically figure out how can we bring everything to full stop of everything that we're doing, and what kind of roles are absolutely necessary for our team to do and what isn't, and how can we minimize the aspect of transmitting the virus to people, right? That has to be your number one concern. And please, it's Earth Month coming, right, in April. Please don't send people to go to Earth Day things. Please don't do action projects with more than 2 people that have both been quarantined. Please don't go hold a rally or march, because what will happen is the virus will spread to all of the environmentalists and it will kill them. And we don't want that to happen, obviously. So this is not like we're occupied by a foreign entity that's like an invading army and going out and protesting as an act of defiance. I'm all behind that. But this is a virus, and it kills by people transmitting to one another. So we need to be careful about that.
Very good. So we wrap up. If please leave your contacts. Please join the group in Facebook.
Can I just say one thing? Sir?
Yes.
Do you mind? Yeah. We also are working with people behind the scene who are going through emotional, because a lot of people, they're being affected because of the anxiety, the isolation. So if anyone is willing to speak to someone or support someone through counseling or through anything, please contact me as well, because we want to help them as well, because most of them, they are not coping very, very well. So hence why we're creating a supporting group so that we can support them as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, very important. Emotional and mental health and connection. I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Then, yeah, and Caroline, we do have also psychiatrists. We do have people that are working on that specifically. So there's going to be next week 2 of them presenting as well.
Yeah.
So we do go by categories, okay. But obviously, if there's foundations here which are focused on that, obviously, please reach out to Caroline and see what the synergy can be and how to help people that Caroline has. Obviously, from my point of view, as I told you, Caroline, I will do everything in my power to find those people and also the specialist for the autistic kids, and the one that I have, she already said yes. So so all of that, you see, there's still the rest of the problems that existed before, they go on. Just the focus point is somewhere else. So let's just not forget the other points where we still can help and we can still add value, and use this network, reach out, ask for help, and we are here to support you. Thank you very much. Yes, Stuart, the Facebook group is called How to Dominate the Decade Under Current Circumstances, exactly as the the names are with every single flyer that we have. So it's already created, unless something else happened with the Facebook. But and obviously whoever wants, then yeah. So you see, all the contacts are here. Thank you very, very much for your time. At 1 p.m. in Spanish, Audelia is going to present a little more what we are doing here in Los Cabos. So whoever can and want to join us also 1 p.m., you're welcome to do so. And obviously tomorrow we have Alexander from Estonia presenting. Alex, just with one sentence, what are you going to talk about tomorrow so people know when to join us?
Well, I want to talk about the doomsday, because one day the virus will stop. What will happen with our economy and supply chains then?
Great.
This is what we are analyzing at Space.
Perfect.
Fascinating.
So Alex is going to talk about this tomorrow at 11 a.m. as we every day from Monday to Friday we have different topics. The meeting code is the same, the password is the same. Please start to share this information if you think that someone can benefit, if we can help someone with those. Share the information, join us, and thank you everybody for coming. I appreciate it.
We'll just a quick question. Will the recordings be posted?
Yes, my team is going to cut a little the beginning where we don't actually have a structure, and then we start to post them in YouTube channel and also on Coral Desk platform, so we can share from there the links.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And it's been wonderful getting to meet everyone. So I unfortunately have to go, but please reach out, communicate to me however you would like to on Facebook as well. And I'll be joining the group so you can reach me that way. And just thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Keep it
Thanks,
safe.
Clayton.
Stay home. And see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.